Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tuts, and today I'm talking with Travis Neilson from Dev Tips on YouTube. And if you haven't checked out his channel, you got to check it out. It's /Dev Tips for Designers at YouTube. I'm going to put a link in the comments to make sure you get a hold of that. He's got a lot of great content, including a great new series on how to build a site from scratch, which is something that a lot of viewers on Level Up Tuts have been asking for. So instead of waiting for me to put that together, you should just go to Dev Tips. Yeah, so just check his series out. You're going to get a lot of great information. So I just want to say hi to Travis. How you doing today?
Just today, actually, I stayed home from work and did YouTube like all day long. So that started this kind of morning, afternoon-ish, when I had a live broadcast, an episode of Dev Tips called Dev Tips Live with an exclamation, and it was so stressful, to be honest. It was like fun and stuff, but it was so stressful because like I was trying to get all my materials organized. I forgot half of the things I wanted to say, and you know, like in the moment, and like even halfway through the broadcast, I clicked stop broadcast on accident, and I shut down the whole thing. And you can't just start again, like Google. I don't know why, but you can't just start broadcasting again. So I had to like make a new one and try to get everybody to come over. It was quite a mess, but we had a lot of fun. I think everybody that was there enjoyed it. Did some giveaways. We did some code examples and just kind of like met everybody like on a human level, trying learn their names, where they're from, what they do. We have a really wide audience all across the globe. There's people from Africa joining in. Europe was there. Ukraine, I think, was there. A few from America, but not as much as you'd think. It was really, really fun.
Nice. So was this your first time doing one of those, or have you done like live meetups before with the coding community?
I've done meetups like in person. Like I have a series on my channel where I go to meetups and interview people one-on-one, and I ask them questions. I try to make it like, really cool. I try to make it cool. I try to make it like insightful, like I ask them questions that maybe new designers or creators or maybe even seasoned people would like get inspiration from. That's the word. I try to make it inspirational when I do that. And I think there's like 3 or 4 videos. Probably the most popular one is where I talked to Dan Cederholm, who's the creator or the co-founder of Dribbble. And I talked to him for a little while, and he talks about why he got into the creative community and what he does to help out and what it does to pay him back and like the good feels and stuff. So that was a really good video. But yeah, this is the first time that we've done like a Google Hangouts live thing, and it was not without complication. But you live and learn, and I think that it's possible we'll do another one. Although like I'm like decompressing from it. It was like I don't know if you can tell when you watch the video, but I'm like it's just so bad.
I mean, that's gotta be really just a great way to meet, like you said, meet the community and inspire people and everything like that. That's gotta be a great experience, and certainly something that Level Up Tuts should consider. But I don't know if I'd be able to handle like that kind of audience. So that's
one of the tenets of my channel is that it's about people. I try to keep in mind that when we're creating and coding and designing and kind of, it's not just a job or it's not just a hobby, but it's a way to connect people. Like we live in, of course, the most connected generation of the history of the planet Earth, but it's because of people. It's because of this technology, but also, again, it really all boils down to just being people and being human. And so I'm interested in people's stories a lot. I like to ask people, how they arrived at the spot they're in and what kind of lessons they've learned along the way. And hopefully I can like glean from them and kind of add their stories and their lessons into my own.
Cool. Yeah, so let's actually talk a little bit about your channel, right? So Dev Tips, you started it when?
Dev Tips started a little more than a year ago. so the story behind the channel, the quick story is, I work for a company that that helps YouTube and people who use YouTube. And I was not a YouTuber at the time, but I went to a YouTube convention and I just met all these creators. And as a designer and as a developer myself, like, I know what creativity looks like, and I love the rush of creativity. And just being at this convention, it was like oversaturated with just that raw creative power. Everywhere I looked, everybody was like doing something and excited about it, and just like enjoying each other on like a very human level. And it was like really, really thrilling to see. And while I was on the convention show floor, I signed up for Dev Tips on YouTube.
That's got to be like super inspiring to just like feel that energy and just know like I'm just gonna do this, right? Like, I'm sure that was just like a moment where you just like felt right to wanna to start it. And I mean, your channel looks great, so you have this like whole just whole general aesthetic, right? And the first thing I noticed about your channel was your welcome video. It's just really well shot and well made. So can you tell me a little bit about like what was your inspiration for the visual aspect of your videos? I know like I said, the very first thing you notice is just like when I saw that video and you had like great lighting, you know, obviously high quality, I was like, man, I got to step up my production game, right? Because this is like some high quality production.
Oh, thanks for saying that. Yeah, I do take a lot of time and effort to put into the videos, and they're not all on the top level, you know, like some are, you know, better than others, of course, but like I do take a lot of interest in making sure that it looks good and is entertaining and that it feels good. That first video you mentioned is a funny one because that was actually the first video I ever made, right? Like, I didn't make a few videos and then make a welcome. I like started out with a welcome video which outlined the vision of what it was going to be, and like if the vision went this way, like what actually happened went way out this way. And so it's really, really funny to go back and look at that first video of a year ago, and like to see like the ideas that I had, that what it would be, and kind of what it ended up being, what the reality was. But I think even from the beginning, the channel has always been inspired by the YouTube aesthetic, or the YouTube culture of vlogging. And so every video, nearly every video anyways, begins with my face. And it's not because I love my face. It's because I want that connection. Again, I really feel that it's all about people. So I feel that when people, especially, you know, I have sometimes in my head the vision of this kind of young creator, this young programmer or designer who just wants to get better and doesn't have a mentor, you know, wasn't lucky enough to find somebody or a class or somebody, and they're looking to latch onto a personality. And I think that Dev Tips can offer that a little bit anyway, because I mean, I respond to every comment that's put on the channel. I want to hear from people how they're using the things that they learn. In fact, the long series that you mentioned earlier, the how to create a website from start to finish, I planned it out to be like 7 or 8 videos, but it turned out to be 23 or 24. And the reason is because we were collaborating on GitHub. So I would like put something up, and then I would get like 20 pull requests the next day. And I'm like, well, okay. So I made a video about pull requests, and then everybody saw that I was making videos about pull requests, and they brought those in. So it's really cool in the way that like it's not just about getting the job done or learning the skill, but it's about like, you know, learning how to work with somebody and learning how to respect somebody's ideas and their preferences and you know, their history, their past, what they bring to the table. I think that's that's all a big part of what coding and creativity and design is interacting and understanding other people.
Cool. And I think that's just like I mean, it's great because there are like a lot of just like straight tutorial channels out there, right? And I think that's really what sets your channel apart, is really that it's about more than just saying, hey, type these keys, you know, and this is the result you get. Like you said, it's about like the people involved in everything like that. And I think that's just like a really fantastic aspect about your channel.
I'm glad you like it. It's not for everybody. Some people, I get some comments sometimes that are like, what is this dude's face doing on the YouTube? Like, I don't need this face. Just get to the code. Everybody's like, you know, you took 20 minutes to explain something that I could have explained in 5. I get a lot of that kind of stuff too. Not a lot. Actually, I get some of it. Most of the community is actually very, very genuine, and they're very helpful too.
Yeah. No, I mean, I see the same thing. I get like most, like 95% of the comments are like really positive, and then there's always like the one person who's like, why did you decide to do it this way? Or like, why did you decide to take this long to explain something? And I'm like, well, you know, I wanted to appeal to everybody, but you can't appeal to everybody. And at the end of the day, there's always going to be some people who are feel, you know, not with it there. But
have you seen that meme? It's Andy from The Office.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
he's like,
I'm sorry.
He's like, sorry, I bothered you with my sincerity.
Yeah, I know,
you know,
exactly.
Or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like, sorry, I bothered you with my free content.
Yeah, I know that you did not pay for and that you're watching for free on YouTube.
Right.
I know. Okay, so your first video was your introduction, which is a great first video. My first video was a terrible Adobe Premiere tutorial, and they were like so bad I pretty much like promptly abandoned that series. I think they're actually still available. It might be like the first video on my channel. I have like 1 or 2 Premiere videos, and then they just like don't exist anymore. Because at first I wasn't just going to be web development. It was like Level Up Tuts was going to be tutorials about all sorts of topics, and then I narrowed the focus down a lot to web development stuff, right? But so what was your first video that was on topic of what you wanted to do your channel? So you had your welcome. What was your first video experience like when you were actually creating your content? Like, can you tell me about it? Because mine was super awkward, and it took me hours to do, and the editing was terrible. So
yeah, if you watch So the first video series that I did was HTML5 Basics, I called it, a basic series. So, and it's really cool, actually. I'm still pretty proud of it. It steps you through like the history of it, where it came from, why it's important, like the ideas behind it, how it's built, like why did the creators of HTML choose to create it that way. It talks about all that stuff, and then it talks about the tags, and then the attributes, and then, you know, how to nest and the DOM, and it talks about all that stuff too. But like it really goes into the ideas, and those were the first ones that I created. But it's really funny if you look at them. It's like this dude this dude does not know what he's doing, and it's like everything is a quick jump cut, and everything is like you know, like HTML, and it's really there's really something else. But I think like over time you get like into a rhythm, and you kind of find out what your voice is, and the only really way that you can do that is by creating. You know, if you sit in your room and plan out what you're going to be like, you never actually know what you're going to be like. You just know what you plan to be like, and it's always different.
Yeah, and I totally get that. I feel like some of the first times I'm on camera, like in my videos, I think the current introduction video I have is like super old. It was shot on my old camera, and like at that point I just didn't have, like, I wasn't comfortable, and I'm still like, it's still like very new to me, right? But the audio aspect of, if I don't have a camera on me, like I can just talk, and at first that was uncomfortable, and then after a year or two it was just like you're talking to anybody, like you're talking to a friend or something like that. And then it all just gets easier and easier, and then you're like second nature or whatever. It's fun, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, the idea of finding, so when I made the welcome video, I didn't know what Dev Tips was going to be. I didn't really have a personality for it yet. I thought I did, but I didn't. So I've taken that learning, and I'm doing a new project with a friend of mine. We're doing a podcast, and before we even release the first episode, we're gonna record and edit and produce and write 3 episodes.
Yeah.
And we're gonna lay them out on the table and say, okay, what do we like? What are we? What are we good at? You know, and I'm really excited about that kind of process before I just start. Like, if I release the first episode before I know what the podcast is going to be about, like what's our cadence going to be, and I think that it would turn out to be not as focused as if we discover ourselves first and then start publishing it. And it's very similar to, you know, somebody who wants to be a designer or somebody who wants to be a developer, that they have they have those few years before they're hired or before they have that big job and get their break, where they can just make weird stuff, you know, and just kind of like figure out what their voice is. I think that is a really precious time for people that want to be creators, and it can also be a really hard time as well. People have a frustration. They have to like work through this stage in their life where they don't have their voice. They don't know what they want to say or how they want to be portrayed or what they want to build, but they know that they want to build something great, and they understand what greatness is. That's a really frustrating time for a lot of people, and I think that a lot of the people that watch my channel kind of fall somewhere in there. I mean, there's some very, 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 very experienced people that just, you know, join in and on the channel, but I think a lot of the people that are watching, you know, they want something more, and they're not exactly sure what they have to offer and where they fall in line.
Cool. Yeah. So in your professional career and in Dev Tips, or just your life essentially, do you see yourself as any more of a designer or a developer, or are you just sort of this like more of like a holistic, like everything I just accept, you know, web or not just web or whatever? Like, what would you define your primary, not only like professional expertise, but just primary, like what excites you to make things, and you know, that was like a lot.
That's a great question.
There. Yeah,
that's a great question. How do you label yourself?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you for putting it more concisely there. Yeah.
When on the other video, when I was asking you the questions, when you were in the hot seat, I mentioned that, you know, like right here, like if this is my interest meter.
Yeah.
Right here is coding, and it's really high. Actually, I love coding. I think it's fantastic. I get such a kick out of it. And then right above it, I'm a designer professionally.
Yeah.
I love to work with people and understand how they would approach a problem and try to design for them and solve a communication thing. And then above that, probably like the thing that really gets me going is the idea of creation and what that looks like when people are going through their lives, you know, like what are the daily practices that a creator will assume in order to become a better creator. Mm-hmm. Being in charge of their creative health and being in charge of their career, if that's what it is, or being in charge of their happiness through creation. There's this concept that I recently ran into, and I've understood the edges of it for a very long time, but I recently watched this TED Talk, and it just kind of, you know, like when you hear something that you know already, but they're saying it in a way that's very clear. My brain was just lighting up. Like I was so excited that somebody understood this thing better than me, so that they could tell me something that I already knew better than I knew it. I don't know if that makes sense. But okay. So it was about creative flow, this video, and this guy who, have you seen this one?
I've watched a absolute ton of TED Talks, and I may have, so it might sound familiar like halfway through.
Yeah, so it's very specific. This guy had done a lot of research on what makes people happy, and he had this awesome grid, and he had this grid which was like on the Y, it was like difficulty, right? The difficulty of the problem, and on the Y, or sorry, the X, I'm getting confused right now. On the that's the X. On the X, it was the skill level that you currently possess, right? So all of your problems can be plotted somewhere on this graph. It's very difficult, but you have a lot of skill. It's not very difficult, but you don't have any skill. It's very difficult, and you have all the skill. You know, like all that kind of, just plot them all on there. And they measured what makes people excited, what kind of problems make people, give people vitality, right? And they found out that it was definitely when when you're on the up and to the right. So when you have a difficult problem, but you have the skill to solve it, that's what makes people go into a state where he described it as flow. Okay. And people are confident in what they're doing. They're excited by a challenging problem, but they have like this energy for it, right? And you get into this zone called flow. And the way he described flow was that you actually will lose part of your ability to understand yourself. Let me back up. That didn't make sense. So he started with the premise of understanding your nervous system. Your nervous system can translate 110 bytes per second to your brain. Okay, so if you're talking and somebody's speaking, they speak at 60 bits per second to your brain, right? 60. So that's why you have a hard time when you get more than 2 people talking at you at one time to understand anything that's going on, because your brain gets overloaded, literally. So this state of flow will affect your whole brain and your nervous system so much. It will make you so excited, and like you'll be building and just kind of like in it so much. Like, and you've had these moments, I know you have, where you've forgotten to eat, or you didn't realize it was cold in the room, or somebody was speaking to you and you didn't hear them. Like the reason that happened in a very like physiological way is because you were so excited and focused on a problem that you're trying to solve that your brain could not pay attention to the rest of your body.
Yeah, and that's
really
actually
interesting.
That like speaks like very, very true to like, I think my wife has said several times, like, if it wasn't for me, you would never eat. Because like I get it, like I'll get home and I'll just be working on something like level up Tuts or anything and just be just in it, right? And then next thing I know, it's 8 o'clock. I haven't eaten dinner. I'm like, well, I guess I'm maybe a little hungry or something, you know? But yeah, I know exactly the feeling of just being so into something that nothing else is in your thought process at all. So that's really cool to hear.
So when you ask me to describe myself or put a label on it, I think that's where I would definitely go towards. Like I make designs, and I make codes so that my designs can live, and I make videos so that my codes can live with designs, and now I'm making a podcast so I can tell people and talk with people about the creative lifestyle. And I have another channel where I make music, and I teach people how to use the iPad to make music, and it's all like this big circle of creation, right? It's not the traditional idea of creativity where you think this person is creative, they must do things. It's about grabbing different things that exist in the world and putting them together into a unique shape and creating something new out of that. I don't believe that anything was created out of nothing. I don't think it's possible. I've never seen it. But I think that everything that we experience stands on the shoulders of something that came before it. And I'm just very, very interested in that. So if you ask me for my label, I would say creator. I have to create.
Yeah, no, I think that's like very obvious from your work, both on YouTube and off of YouTube. Like I think like the stuff you do is just very, I don't know, it's sort of just very genuine looking, right? If there's like no other word to describe it, it just looks like it was created by somebody who just like, who feels things, right? Who creates it, like not necessarily like I'm going to create this because I have to. It's like I'm creating this because it is me, and it's part of all of these experiences I've had in life. It's pulled in and like it's shot out in these different ways, right?
If you think that shows, then I'm very flattered. That's very
no.
Very nice
I think
hear.
it's like tremendously obvious with not only the visual appeal, but just like the general style, and and just like the well-rounded, everything just like sort of speaks to that as a whole. So I think that's like one of the most inspiring things about things, like in art or technology in general, right? So like even in music, there's some artists you can just hear that like genuine force that it was created with, and it just feels differently than music that was created for purely like monetary reasons, or purely just because they have to put out a record because their contract, right? It just feels very different.
You'll see this in a lot in when bands put out their first album. You know, it's full of angst and kind of like that realness, because they've been like, they didn't make that album yesterday. You know, they made that album over 3 or 4 years, as long as they've been a band. And their second album is usually like, what? Because they didn't have 3 or 4 years of angst and like uncertainty to kind of like inspire that album. It was like, okay, you did good, now do it again. And you know what I mean? Like it's a different way of going about it. So bands that can keep the magic of their first album usually have like a way of understanding themselves that you don't see with bands that lose it right away.
So I mean, you're obviously like you're really into the YouTube creator scene in general, right? You follow YouTube creators, you know, a lot of channels, right? So what are your favorite, like most inspiration non-development tutorials, like non-web or creative whatever tutorials? Like what kind of like channels excite you on YouTube? And you don't have to give me like a certain number, just like 1 or 2, but like what channels and like why do they excite you?
So one channel that comes to mind is Good Mythical Morning. Do you know Good Mythical Morning?
I don't, no.
It's a talk show. It's these two guys they're very funny, very cool, like they're very nice, and they have this kind of like presence that you just like, that you're talking right to them, and I've always thought like they know it, they nailed it, like they know what they're doing, you know. They also have another channel called Rhett and Link, which is I think maybe more popular. I'm not sure, but. It's a talk show, so like every episode is just like a different topic. Like sometimes they eat peppers, sometimes they talk about something in the news, and it's not unplanned or you know, off the cuff. It's very scripted, very professional. They have a very beautiful set too. It's really good. But I love the way that it's just like so personal. I think that if I could touch people in the way that like I perceive that they are, then I think that would be a really big success. I really like them. And also another channel that, like, you know, either might be a shock that I like it, or might be obvious that I like it. Either way, depending on where you come from, is Pewdiepie.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so obviously he's the biggest channel on YouTube, so a lot of people like it, sure. But I don't like I like Pewdiepie because I think he's super genuine. I do. Like, and I know that you might think like, oh, he's a millionaire from YouTube, he's got to be, you know, a celebrity kind of whatever. But like, if you like watch his stuff, like he's just such a genuine, happy person. Like, I don't know, I really like him.
And like, I mean that speaks exactly to what we were talking. There's just something about like that authenticity in the things that you're making that just shines through the material level of whatever you're doing, whether it's like a video, but that authenticity just like cuts right out of that video, like into the viewer. And I think that really makes like a big difference. If you do something, to do it like as you doing like how it feels right for you to do it, right? And I think that shines through. So I think those are like great inspirations, especially for like what you're trying to do with your channel.
Yeah, I tried, you know, like when I talked about, what I talked about in creativity is pulling from different, you know, like if I focused on just what I perceived coding channels to be, only that, and that was my only inspiration, it would look exactly like every other coding channel. Which is not bad. Like, there's very good channels out there, but I try to pull from different things. So I look at news broadcasting. I look at, hi honey. So I look at news broadcasting. I look at different like kind of talk shows, and I want to incorporate that kind of very, very closeness with the audience.
So yeah, so we're gonna wrap this up, right? But I just wanted to ask quick. You said you mentioned you had a podcast coming out. Is this something that you have nailed down? Do you have a name? Do you have a URL or anything you want to plug? It's still out in the open?
I would love to. I will say that I'm co-hosting it with a friend of mine who has been on the channel a few times. His name is Los, and we are having so much fun. I am so excited to finally release it. We've only done 1.5 episodes so far, but it's really, really fun. And I like it because we're taking that approach of it's just two people that you're friends with having a conversation. And that's like definitely at the outset what we wanted. And we're talking about the creative lifestyle, which I'm very interested in, like how to be a healthy creator for the long run, you know, and we're talking about all these cool things, and we tell like just stupid stories about, you know, like the what's been going on. I can't really describe it too much because I don't want to, like, you know, set too much explanations while we're still discovering who we are and what we want to be. But I'm really excited to share it, and nobody knows about it yet. You're the first person I've told.
When you release that, I'll make sure, you know, tweet it out, share it out to, you know, Level Up Tuts. But I think, you know, our viewership and your viewer, I think everybody's gonna just love it because it sounds pretty sweet. I really hope they do. Yeah, that's exciting. It's gonna be great. That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, it's been great. It's been great chatting with you. It's been great getting to know you. I hope your channel just keeps growing and growing. So if you're watching this and if you aren't subscribed to Dev Tips, check out Dev Tips. It's awesome. A lot of great content there. I'm sure Travis has a lot of cool stuff planned. So keep checking it out. Subscribe. As always, this is Scott with Level Up Tuts. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.